Hello everyone and welcome to SureWeb's MSP Masterclass online conference number 5 entitled Trends in Managed Services, which will be presented by Ian Khan and myself, Matthew LeBlanc. Ian is a technology futurist and a TEDx and CompTIA speaker, as well as a technology author who's published several books, including Cloud Wars, The Internet of Things and the Future of Innovation, and Make Me Like You. Ian is also a frequent contributor to industry publications and speaks regularly at different industry events. In his session, he is going to talk about how cloud computing has ushered in a new era of technology. Rather than just providing a new model for companies to build infrastructure, cloud systems are changing behaviors within businesses. So in this market intelligence session, Ian is going to show you what the benefits and challenges are in adopting cloud computing, from an investment decision to implementation strategies to ongoing operations. Welcome, Ian, and thank you for being with us today. Please join me on stage, and the show is all yours.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Let me transition here. There you go.
Thank you. Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. Sitting through any presentation and session is very challenging because you've got to understand what the speaker is talking about. You've got to absorb that information and figure out how you're going to use that information. I'll try my best to put forward the content in a way which is engaging for you, and so that we have a meaningful dialogue rather than me just delivering content. I'm going to talk about something very critical, and I think that's the fundamental reason why all of you are here today. It's not about figuring out if you are the experts or not. Of course you are the experts. It's not about figuring out if you have the solutions and products that you want to sell. Of course you do. But then it's about figuring out what is the best way possible to target the market and be of value as a trusted advisor to your customers. I'll talk about some of the research that CompTIA has done, and we researched about between 200 to 400 different IT organizations within the channel. And really, the insights that they shared are very, very important. And I think if you take some of those points and learn from them and use them in your businesses, they will be pivotal to your success in the short term and the long term. I'm going to talk about why managed services are important in the first place. Like, where is the market going from products and services to more of a managed services kind of a play? I'll talk about internal operations and how organizations and channel partners today should manage their business in order to have the best possible success to their business. We'll talk about strategic planning and look at a couple of different things that you might want to look at in terms of skills, tools, and so on. And then we'll wrap up with a Q&A. All of the research that I'm presenting here is based on at least, again, 200 to 400 different IT organizations that were surveyed. And if you look at by the numbers, of all the people we surveyed, 77% of IT organizations, channel partners, felt that they were indeed ready and they were skilled experts. They really believed it, which is excellent. You've got to believe that you are able to serve the market need rather than you have no skills, you have no expertise. So that's excellent. The industry feels they are ready to penetrate the market with managed services. Now, there are definitely drivers that you need to enable when you're trying to penetrate the market. I've got 8 of them on the screen here in no order of importance. They're all important. Number 1 doesn't mean it's 8 times more important than number 8. They're all equally important. So please look at them individually and think about your businesses when you look at each of these points. Maybe one of them will resonate, maybe all of them will resonate with you. Some of the drivers that were identified, and this is out of the CompTIA's trend in managed services from 2016, with a base of 400 IT channel firms that were studied. The first one is improved service utilization rates. Partners figured out that they need to be able to utilize the service rates better. They need to be able to serve their customers better, in no order of importance again. Number 2, increased sales revenue. I think that's something that's very close to everybody who works within the channel. We want to increase our revenues, and we want to be able to do better and grow. Protect your customer base. As more organizations, as more companies, as more partners start selling solutions from different organizations, it is something that is changing the landscape. There's definitely a lot of competition on the cloud, and protecting your customer base is also a matter of concern. You've got to be able to remain their partner of choice and their trusted advisor. Minimize financial risk is also another factor, which really means that you're able to project the success of your business for the long term. You're able to account for revenues that will drive your business. And I will talk about cloud-based business models as we go on through the presentation. You're also talking about expanding the wallet share with customers. And this is not just financial. This is not just driving and squeezing more revenue, but it's also about being more valuable to the customer. So expanding the wallet share has everything to do with being, how can I be more valuable to my customers? Building recurring revenue streams. I'm sure a lot of you or all of you are doing something with recurring revenue streams. If you're selling any of Microsoft solutions, Office 365, or what have you, you're already in that area of having or recognizing the importance of the recurring revenue. And cloud has changed a lot of things we traditionally did, and it will continue to do that. If we fail to realize that things will not change, we are wrong. They will continue to change and get better. Control all aspects of an offering, and you're talking about being valuable across different domains. You're talking about expertise in maybe applications, in infrastructure, in storage, in disaster recovery. And you don't have to be an expert in all of them, but this is something we encountered where this was a primary driver for some of the partners to go and get into the market. And last but not least, get to the market quickly. And speed is essential to success. If you do not have speed and agility, it's very tough to conquer the market because of competition, because of eroding margins and so on. And I'll talk about them as I go on through the presentation. Now, from the survey, we asked partners which area of their business within the channel drives the most amount of revenue. And there's two different answers we got. The first one is IT solutions and projects. 44% of respondents ranked this line of business as the top revenue generator. So a lot of revenue is coming through IT solution sales and project work. Whether it's one-off project work, long-term, it's just project work. And a lot of it is coming from applications that traditionally the channel has sold. We're not talking about business models right now. The second area, 29% ranked this line of business as the top revenue generator, is managed services. And the tide is shifting more towards the managed services business. So again, many of you will be able to recognize this as the absolute truth. There's applications and solutions and projects, and then there's an entire new section on managed services that is becoming a top revenue generator for businesses in the channel. Now, as a result of this growing managed services business, something else has to decline because you only have 100% that you can target. Here are some of the business areas that are seeing a change, that are seeing a shift in the revenue it's driving for the channel. Across the board, between small, medium, and large firms, you can look at product sales. That's really taking a huge decline overall in terms of revenue generation. Hardware is not the primary revenue generator anymore, as things are moving towards solutions, applications, and managed services. Some of the other things that are up there are one-off project-centric work. And you see that for small and medium firms, this is the bigger chunk of the decline. Probably because a lot of their business is based on the one-off project works. And it's not based on the long-term project work. So just some food for thought. We're seeing a decline in pure consulting services, a lot more for the medium and large businesses, not so much for the small firms. So the small firms are not really seeing a huge decline in pure consulting services because probably they focused a lot more on the one-off projects or product sales. So this is something to think about. Where is the industry going and how should you shift the focus of your business? Should it be more towards hardware? Should it be more towards applications, services, so on and so forth? And last but not least, others such as referrals, extended warranties, etc., referrals and so on are also going to see a decline in the business. Now within managed services, there's many different areas. There's many different things you could be doing as a reseller. Some of them are here. You're talking about managed services within security, within server management, desktop management, disaster recovery, database management, email, virtual desktop, name it, and it's there. How do managed service providers today feel that they are ready? Let's look at some of the numbers. Let's look at the first one, which is security. 74% of respondents said that they offer security as a service or security as a managed service. And another additional 24% said that they were planning to offer this in addition to what they have. If you look at software management or database management, it stands at 68% saying that they currently offer it. And this list is pretty long. This is a very short, condensed list. But overall, the consensus of 59% of respondents was that services mix in the next 1 year will increase. It will increase overall by adding new services and solutions to the mix and changing the landscape of what currently channel partners offer. 28% said it will remain the same, and 10% said it's mixed bag, and 3% said it's going to decrease overall. So there's also that aspect of really specializing for that 3% in something that they really want to focus on instead of expanding. But the wide majority, 59%, said that it's going to increase overall. Now, MSPs and channel solutions and applications and services are really being driven by 3 different buckets. The first one, which is the biggest part, is it's a strategic part of the MSP catalog. So if managed service providers have added this service to their catalog, that's the biggest driver for them to go out and sell those services to their customers. The second one, being supported at customer request. We all get that order request from the customer where the requirement is something we haven't done before. And that's a big driver. And I'm sure you've done projects that you had no idea in the past about, and you enabled them and you did them despite the fact that you had to put your resources together for that. And last but not least is not part of the MSP catalog. You're doing things that you've never done before. It's not part of your standard catalog, but you're still doing them. And those are 3 big drivers of how MSPs are looking at cloud service offerings today. Moving on from what we saw in the industry as the biggest drivers, the biggest buckets of, let's say, opportunity, let's talk about internal operations and how managed services providers today are organized and what they see as their strengths and weaknesses. In this survey, we asked them about some core areas that was more operational. It was about how ready are you to go out to the market and do the best of what you guys do. Some of the items here are, is your technical abilities all right? Are your technical resources in place? What about your business model? What about your profit margins? What about your price structure? If you look at some of them, one of the biggest ones is process efficiency. 59% of respondents said yes, their processes are efficient. And if your processes are not efficient, that's a big problem. So it's overall really good news, but 59% is still a number that you want to think about. Do you fall in the 59 or do you fall in the rest? So getting your processes streamlined to tackle the challenges in the market is very, very important. HR onboarding, recruiting, and retaining talent is one of the biggest challenges in the industry today. And there's another slide that I'll present later on. But talent and the people problem is one of the biggest challenges that everybody is facing. There's also a line item called sales effectiveness at 50%. Are you really able to explain the value proposition and the ROI to the customer? This is not about hiring the best salesperson. This is not about enhancing your sales team, but it's really about, are you able to deliver the value to your customers and explain to them what the offerings are and so on. So sales is also an important topic. Overall, 76% of respondents said that they are very efficient and they are a well-oiled machine. And 24% said that they're efficient in places and others need to work. And there's always room for improvement. Some of the biggest challenges, and I mentioned this before, some of the biggest operational challenges in adopting managed services, let's just look at the major challenges. Again, the cost of retraining your technical people, your sales teams, everybody and anybody who works with customers is kind of the biggest challenge that organizations are facing. Added to this is the new revenue model on the cloud, which really takes you down to the next level of how your sales teams are being compensated. And that has kind of changed everything. The recurring revenue model has had a trickle-down effect on everything we do. So these are some of the bigger challenges. In the next three items, automating IT functions, setting pricing structure, and recruiting and hiring the right talent, pricing is also a challenging aspect as you deal with the monthly invoices, the monthly billings of different solutions and services. And how do you really integrate those and manage those is also something that the channel is really looking into and trying to figure out. With respect to pricing, the traditional model of per user is still predominant. We're still pricing out things on a per seat basis. But newer models are coming out. For example, the per device model. As IoT rolls out, as we all have more than one device, I at least have 4 devices on me all the time. As the number of devices increases, as that changes, I think the per device model could have something in it. But again, on the enterprise level, you're looking at things in a different way. There's also the consumption model based on pure consumption of services and solutions, which is a bit more trickier, but the likes of some larger vendors are really enabling that as to make the cloud more agile, to make the cloud more, let's say, beneficial for end users. You also are looking at a 13% fixed recurring fee licensing model and also a fixed recurring fee for standard services as a 10%. So in terms of getting the pricing right, there is no golden formula. It really depends on what is being priced rather than as a big ballpark of everything is recurring revenue or everything is perpetual or everything is per seat. I spoke about this before. And this is about retaining your technical teams, retaining your best people to be part of your journey as you go along the cloud. Among all the respondents that we asked this question, 80% responded that at least one of their technical staff members had left their organization for one of their customers. That's a really big challenge. You're giving your best to the customers, you're managing their services, you're delivering the goods, and 80% of respondents said at least one person had left them to go and work for the customers. So it's something that you need to think about and figure out how do you retain the best of talent on whom you've spent countless hours and time and money on training them, giving them the expertise, and how do you retain them and keep them part of your growth. And this is a challenge that everybody is facing. You're not alone. So if you've had this happen to you, you're not alone in that journey. So let's talk about some of the best practices that that the IT channel is undertaking in terms of launching an MSP practice. What did they do? What is everybody else doing to grow their MSP business? First of all, among the respondents, they hired new salespeople. They hired new salespeople with MSP experience, and that's something that, going back to the revenue part of what I said, is what the IT channel among our respondents did. Second thing, they invested in building a NOC. Now, you don't have to go out and build your own NOC, but this is what, among the 200 people and organizations we surveyed, they did. There's also the contracted with third-party NOC. So take NOC as being an important and key part of it, whether you're owning it, you're renting it, you're leasing it, you're partnering up with somebody. I think that forms a fundamental building block when you're looking at expanding your services. Retrained existing sales reps. So putting that investment back into your teams and not being frustrated with results if you're not getting them, and I've seen this so many times. It's very important to retrain your people constantly. It's very important to give them that expertise, because things are changing really fast with pricing models, business models, deployment models. Too many things are changing too fast. So it's very important to keep your team engaged and retrained. There's also restructured sales compensation model. 49% of organizations we studied did that. They changed their compensation models because the billing model for services and solutions has changed. We're talking about, going back to my previous slide, we talked about the recurring revenue, or we talked about the consumption model. A result of those changes has to translate in that everyday revenue that the sales team is generating for themselves. And that's where the trend is going. Other things include obtained credit and access to capital, retrained their technical staff, or invested in commercial software applications to manage their MSP offerings and the MSP business. Going back to the last point, which is invested in commercial software applications, it's more about how well do you want to be organized. It's not about spending the money to deploy a new system and go through the training and just deploy it for no reason and start using it for no reason. But it's about how well prepared do you want to be if you're really, really serious about being organized and streamlining your operations. If you remember one of my previous slides, the operational efficiency is one of the highest needs of the business if you really want to succeed. And in no particular order, some of the solutions for remote management and professional services automation, there's things such as you want to be able to efficiently manage problem resolution. The response time that customers are expecting with cloud applications and solutions is different from the perpetual model. They need faster response times, more agility, and so on. Integrating and managing customer billing and payments. Granularity of billing. How granular is your billing for your customers is an important thing. And billing is a challenge for a lot of organizations to get it right. How do we translate that big bill from our managed services provider into smaller chunks, and how do we break it down? Managing internal sales and marketing teams. This could be your CRM. This could be your sales software. That's your sales automation tools, and so on and so forth. Of course, now you've got to look at this from a perspective of, are we talking about one system or multiple systems? Because it does get complex. You're talking about HR, you're talking about CRM, financial, accounting, project management. And there are tools out there that will do this for you, and you can do your own due diligence and see what the industry is using. I'm not recommending any solution or software here. But I'm talking more from the aspect of, if you want to do something right, you have to invest in the tools. And this is what industry is doing. This is what we found out from our survey, that this was one of the top needs of the channel and the MSP providers. Now, the rollout of the PSA and RMM solutions had its own feedback that we received. Over 59% of respondents that we studied said that it was well worth the investment. they really got the ROI from the investment into those tools that automated and gave them that ability to roll out things better and integrate their internal operations better. 39% said it was mostly worth the investment, and 2% said somewhat disappointing. You'll always have cases where it didn't work out, where it wasn't planned out right, and I don't know the reasons here. But overall, managed service providers reported high satisfaction with commercial software in the following areas: ease of deployment, length of rollout time, training needs, customer impact, and interoperability with other systems. So it's a key and important point to kind of go back and look at your internal operations and see how you guys are organized with respect to your solutions. There's also the aspect of adding new resources to your team as business expands. You can't really, we only have 24 hours. And IT is, our teams are traditionally, they're very challenged with respect to being able to provide and service all customers. But given some movement within your sales pipelines, you will have to hire more people. And here's what we learned. For customers that had 30 new seats, approximately, they hired, 36% of them hired a new technician to take care of that business need. It's just a number to indicate that there's no direct relationship between the number of seats and how many people hired, but you can see that with every addition, even if you look at 10 new seats, so there was an addition of 10 new seats, 15% of companies we studied added a resource to help with those seats. So you've got to be able to plan how your team is expanding, and is your team able to service your customers in the right way, give them the time they need, and so on. If there was an addition of 40 new seats, 15% added a new resource, and if there was an addition of 50 new seats, they added 6% added a new technical person to their team to serve that need. So you've got to be able to scale your business based on the number of, based on the amount of new customer acquisitions as well. You can't just expect to serve that customer demand with the resources you have. So it's all about planning your internal operations. Moving into strategic planning for your business, let's look at what's keeping everybody awake at night. And it's a really interesting slide. Cloud computing is the biggest thing that's keeping everybody awake at night. And cloud computing is such a big term. It encompasses so many different building blocks. So some of them can be how do I derive more revenue from the cloud? Or how can I service my customers better on the cloud? And so on and so forth. But overall, cloud computing is the biggest nightmare for everybody. And I personally feel that it's more about learning about how you can utilize the cloud and how you can offer that value proposition to your customers through the cloud. So it's more about gaining that knowledge. It's all about understanding that knowledge and then passing it on as a value proposition to your customers. There's also the aspect of customer demand. So you could think of it as revenue generation. In other words, how do I acquire net new customers? How do I service my existing customers? How do I upsell and increase that wallet share? They're all kind of related to that customer demand. Margin erosion, customer acquisition cost, MSP market consolidation, and so on. The least being new types of competitors. So I think between understanding from a knowledge perspective, understanding the cloud industry and understanding the cloud value proposition, the competition is really the last thing everybody is worried about, although it stands at a 28%. So the focus is more about, organizations are thinking more about what they need to do and how they need to do, and I feel there's a bit of hand-holding that needs to be done so that channel partners really feel that they've got the goods to pass on to the customers and explain that value proposition. In terms of the prioritization of the immediate goals, the previous slide was a bigger picture on what's keeping them up at night, but this is about a prioritized list of immediate goals that we asked the channel partners to tell us more about. Looking at the major priority side, 62% of respondents said that increasing volume, net new customers was their highest priority. We're talking net new customers. Acquiring them within a certain region or a certain, we're not talking about geographical territories, we're talking about purely increasing the number of customers you have. And the secondary is really expanding the number of, is to expand your business with the customer base, and it's also a very important one. 57% of respondents talked about new technology and how they want to venture into new services. One of them being IoT as an example, but there's many others. There's many other areas. There's machine learning, there's consumption-based different models, there's analytics. The list is never ending. And we also saw things such as they wanted to specialize in a vertical industry, or they also wanted to target non-IT buyers. And that's the whole buying journey. I think somebody's covering that. Dana probably is covering that later, is about how do you talk to non-IT buyers, because the buying power has changed from IT to the business users. MSPs are also tracking their performance. 92% of people we surveyed are tracking them through formal business plans. If you do not have a formal business plan to track your progress, then it's time to do that now and figure out a plan. 89% maintain a formal sales and marketing business plan. This is separate from the overall business plan for recurring revenue. And the third is conduct estimates of customer lifetime value. So you've got to be able to regularly plan what you intend to do in your business and not only deliver, but analyze and measure what the response is coming, what the response is. Now, this goes back to also talking to customers and how often are you speaking with your customers. Between quarterly, monthly, and weekly meetings, and we're talking about non-immediate discussions here. We're not talking about a burning issue or something like that. We're talking about a strategic discussion with a customer on matters not involving immediate technical concerns. Small managed service providers are doing a lot more monthly chatting with their customers. So they're doing a lot more monthly. Whereas if you look at the larger MSPs, they're doing a lot more weekly planning with their customers. So does it have to do with how they're delivering the goods? Does it have to do with the amount of resources that are available? This needs to be figured out at an individual level. But if you can really touch point with your customers, I would recommend a quarterly, monthly, and a weekly basis. That would really probably change the dynamic. But this is overall what the industry is doing. There's a lot more monthly touch points and then a quarterly and a weekly. And it really differs between the size of the managed service provider. So you've got to come out with your own formula for the best success. Customer acquisition cost is also important. This is an integrated number with your marketing, sales organization, your expenses. What is the CAC, or the customer acquisition cost? It varies across the board, but kind of the middle point is somewhere $1,000 per customers. This is in marketing spend. This is in your events. $1,000 is the big ballpark between small, medium, and large providers. That doesn't mean that you cannot acquire a customer at $250 per customer. 5% of respondents said that that's where the number stood. It was $250. Whereas on the other extreme, 7% said that it was about $5,000 per customer. Now it really depends on the industry you're targeting, the vertical that you're targeting, the solutions you're selling, and it's not just something you can cut and paste and apply to your business. You've really got to go back down and figure out the cost of acquiring that customer for your individual business and take that as a guideline from that point onwards. But this is what channel partners and channel organizations are spending. Prioritizing between operations and strategic work, 53% of respondents said that they want to focus and they plan to focus more of their attention on their internal operations. And 47% said that they want to do more strategic planning. Both of these are important. strategy as well as execution is very key to the overall business success. But these are the numbers, and this is how the other channel partners are spending their time and intend to spend their time. So if you're not doing planning, if you're not strategizing, maybe this is something you can look at and think about. And that's really the essence of where the industry is heading, where the managed service provider businesses are seeing growth, and what are some of the areas that they should focus on in terms of figuring out. It's the business plan, it's the customer touch points, it's the technical resources that you need to have in place, and it's about retaining talent. So there's all these buckets of influence that are very important to success within the channel. Even though competition was at the end, but it's still something that is out there. Every organization is desperately fighting to be the trusted advisor. And the future looks bright, and it's definitely something that's going to grow in the next year and so on. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Please,
Before the Q&A section, I'm just going to maybe touch on a few key highlights. One, I think one of the slides that you mentioned show that 43 or 44% of MSPs are still reactive when it comes to cloud services. Obviously, I'd like to see that number go up, but that's still very interesting. We saw a lot of process efficiency, operational challenges. And I just want to jump off of that topic and really just talk a little bit about SureWeb for the next few minutes, and then we'll really have a good 10 minutes for the Q&A. As you can see from SureWeb, we've got you covered from your entire journey, from beginning to end, whether it's from your sign-up, which is no obligations, no financial commitments, to 24/7 technical support through different partner programs and different value. And those values really are around one key core goal, and that's SureWeb's business model, is really to make sure that our partners are able to successfully and quickly go to market with cloud services. And how do we do that? Well, we do it by allowing you to lower your investments and complexity around investments or financial or operational processes around 4 key categories. Your sales or pre-sales support. So as a SureWeb partner, you have access to certified solution architect that can help you scope, qualify, and close business, whether it be sales or solution architects that can help you build a proposition, even with complex offering like Azure and infrastructure as a service. So you can leverage those as your own instead of building out those skill sets and those resources internally. Another big one is really the migration and onboarding support that you get as a SureWeb partner. You want to migrate Azure to infrastructure, to Office 365, you want to move applications and data to the cloud, you've got certified teams that are dedicated to really working with you and your customers to make sure that the downtime is minimized, that there's no data loss, and that everything works seamlessly. And this is based on 20 years of migration experience from different platforms, from different environments. There's very few things that our team haven't seen, and we extend those best practices, tools, and services to you, often within the monthly fee that you pay for the actual cloud service that you sell. Another one is really the technical support. So once onboarding is done, your customer is on the service, well, that's great. Well, SureWeb is there to support you 24/7. So different partner programs are available to you, whether we support your end customer or whether we support you, and you are therefore client-facing. So you don't need to build out extensive certifications or skill sets or simply the number of employees that you have within your own NOC. You can leverage SureWeb's, all right? So those are key values. And then if we look more at the operational or financial aspects, well, you've got a great portal, which we call Cumulus. Within this portal, you manage your entire book of business with SureWeb, whether it be creating new customers, adding services, making changes to those services that your customers have. All of that is done through this online portal. And apart from reports and different admin user functionalities that you can do, the portal also offers you great billing efficiency. So you're able to get in one consolidated invoice all of your customers' services, quantities, price points, of course, that you're being invoiced by SureWeb. You can get that through CSV, through data warehousing, and other custom billing solutions are also available. So really the idea is wrapping all this up, giving you access to this list of professional services and tools to help your efficiency in order to go to market faster. So we spoke about going to market fast. That's one of the key aspects. You got to capitalize on an opportunity. And since, again, 44% of MSPs are not today really proactively offering cloud services, some of these, or many of these benefits and professional services that you have access to as a Sure partner have helped them to accelerate and offer confidently cloud services to their customers, allowing you to focus on selling and acquiring new customers, and building IP, specialization, or differentiating yourself from the competition. So that being said, Ian, please, let's open it up to the floor. Let's talk about you as an MSP. Let's ask some questions. Anybody want to ask a few questions to Ian or myself? Yes.
You were talking about the cost of acquisition that varies from $250 to $5,000. Can you tell me the size of customers you were referring to?
Yeah, I understand that. I do not have that information available in this deck, but we have those numbers available as part of CompTIA's research, so I can definitely point you in the right direction. But I don't have the numbers in my mind to share with you, but there's definitely that breakdown of where did the, what types of customers are you talking about, how large are those customers, and so on. And the data is a little bit more granular than that.
Well, let's see if some of the audience can help out. How many of you do calculate your cost of acquisition per customer? And what would you say it is on average, if you don't mind sharing? About 3,500. Okay. There's different variables that impact, of course, that cost of acquisition. Anybody else track it and would like to share? No? Okay. So all of the content will be made available to you all, and if you have specific questions after that, of course, each individual speaker will be available to interact with you and provide you that content. Yes, go ahead.
When you were showing the slide about customer touchpoints, were they actually having conversations with their clients and reaching out and talking to them? Or were they sending out emails based on services that they're offering?
Great question. These were more about strategic touch points with the customers and not about a single application, but it was more about planning the tomorrow for the customer. So if you go back to that slide, when you look at it, it's more about non-immediate fires that are burning, but more strategy-based. How am I going to sit with my customer today and tell them more about this is how you can roll out a new service and what you would do with it?
So is the delivery system through email, or is it one-on-one, or is it in group conferences? So what's the delivery system?
I would say that, and please join me in answering this question. There's a bit of the business strategy versus the marketing side of things. Your question is more about how do I, at a marketing level, reach out to my customers in general, whereas what I was more talking about is that you could be strategizing with the customer over, I wouldn't say email, but more in a face-to-face or a discussion-based, on a one-to-one.
Yeah, there's different ways as well. Of course, email nurturing campaigns can be sent out on a regular basis. I've seen a lot of our partners invest in an internal account management system, like an inside sales team that is more responsible for farming the accounts versus hunting new accounts. And they'll call in regularly. It could be just a phone call. It could be a sit-down as well. But certainly making sure that you've got that presence with your customer on a regular basis through whatever means each of your customers are more comfortable with is essential. Being front of mind for your customers. Track that satisfaction, track how happy your customers are with your service, very important. Some of these costs of acquisitions, if you don't keep the customer for a minimum amount of time, well, can be quite expensive if you don't track your customers and make sure to keep your churn as low as possible.
Let's take a question from our online audience. What are the predictions of the cloud over the next few years? Well, there's actually no denying that cloud is going to continue to be a primary factor in IT growth. And actually, according to Gartner, the public cloud services market has grown in double digits in 2016, from 175 billion in revenue in 2015 to 204 billion in worldwide revenue in 2016. And in 2017, Gartner continues to believe that the market will expand with year-over-year revenue growth by about 17%. So again, in 2017, double-digit growth over 2016. Well, since there are no more questions, let's now officially close the MSP Masterclass online conference. First off, on behalf of myself, our guest speakers, and the entire SureWeb organization, we thank you, the attendees, for participating in this unique online series. And of course, a special thank you goes out to our guest speakers, Dana, Sharka, Mark, and Ian, for contributing their time and content to this unique initiative. Your feedback so far has been phenomenal, guys, and it's only inspiring us to continue in our dedication to simplifying the cloud for our partners, because after all, your success is our success. And SureWeb will continue to offer you free content like this one in the hopes that it will truly make a difference in your cloud journey. So feel free to reach out to us to learn more about SureWeb's partner programs and how we can help you grow your business in the cloud. Once again, thank you everyone and have a nice day.